Here's something that keeps me up at night. After 20 years of working with retirees, I've watched people do everything right. They saved diligently, they invested wisely, they hit their number, and then they spent the next 15 years terrified to touch any of it. Here's the data that should disturb you based on retirees with $500,000 or more in savings. After 20 years of retirement, they had spent only 11.5% of their assets, according to the BlackRock Retirement Institute in 2017. The paper is entitled Spending Retirement Assets or Not, and it's one of the most famous studies in modern financial planning because it contradicted the assumption that retirees would spend down their life savings. That's not a typo. Nearly 90% of their nest egg went completely unused. Now think about what that actually means. You work for 40 years, you sacrifice vacations, you drive the older car, you max out your 401k, you finally hit $1 million or $2 million, and 20 years into retirement, you've only touched $118,000 of it. That's not financial success. That's unfulfilled dreams with a big bank balance. So let me ask you something uncomfortable. What if the biggest risk in your retirement isn't running out of money? What if it's running out of time while you're still hoarding it? Hi, I'm Mark Fonville, CEO and Certified Financial Planner here at Covenant Wealth Advisors in Richmond, Virginia. Today, I'm going to walk you through the realities of retirement and why you should consider spending more of your money for a better life. So here's why this happens. For 30 or 40 years, you've been in accumulation mode. Every raise, every bonus, every tax refund, the goal was always the same: save more. That mindset served you well. It got you here, but now it's working against you because flipping the switch from saving to spending, that's not a math problem. It's an identity problem. You've spent decades as a saver, and now someone's telling you to become a spender. Everything in your brain screams no, and the financial industry doesn't help. In fact, I talk about the risk of running out of money all the time. And why do I do that? Well, 66% of retirees worry about running out of money. That's according to the Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies' 19th annual survey from several years ago. Yet the actual data shows many retirees preserve most of their savings after they retire. 1 in 3 actually increase their net worth during retirement, and there's a massive gap between fear and reality. So let's talk about something uncomfortable. The average 65-year-old today has about 18 to 20 years of life expectancy. But here's what matters more: the window of robust health, where you can travel, play with grandkids, start that project. That's typically only 13 to 14 years, according to the CDC's National Vital Statistics Report, which publishes data on the healthy life expectancy for individuals. After that, you enter what planners call the slow-go years. Energy declines, mobility becomes harder. That dream trip to Italy, much harder at 82 than at 67. So when I hear someone say, we'll travel more next year, or we're waiting until the market settles down, I think about that window, because every year you wait is a year you can't get back. In 2026, roughly 11,200 Americans are turning 65 every single day. This is the peak of the baby boomer wave, and too many of them will make the same mistake, treating retirement like one more decade of accumulation, when it's actually the season meant for living. Now, before I go on, be sure to subscribe to our channel below, because we're planning on releasing a new proprietary tool that can really help you gain clarity on how to better visualize your retirement going forward. So when you subscribe, you'll just be notified once we post it. Now, this is where most people get the numbers wrong. Let me show you what I mean. The classic 4% rule says you can withdraw 4% of your portfolio annually with a high probability of not running out over 30 years. Of course, individual results depend on market conditions, inflation, and personal circumstances, but that's the standard guidance. Here's what retirees actually do. 65-year-old couples are withdrawing about 2% per year on average, according to a 2025 study by David Blanchett and Michael Fink. Half of what the research suggests is sustainable. So let me put this in real numbers. Say you have $2 million saved. A 4% withdrawal is $80,000 a year. But if you're only pulling 2%, that's $40,000. You're leaving $40,000 of lifestyle on the table every single year. Over 15 years, that's $600,000 in experiences you never had. And here's the part that really gets me. 1 in 5 savers say they plan to only spend investment income and never touch the principal, even if it means cutting back on their lifestyle. They'd rather live smaller than see that account balance decline. For many, that level of caution may be unnecessary given their resources. So let me share what the research says about regrets. When surveyed, retirees were asked their biggest regret. The number one answer at 20.5% was not being ready to truly live life after work. Not, I didn't save enough, not I invested wrong, but rather I didn't live enough. Another 7.6% specifically said they wish they'd traveled more while they could. These aren't hypotheticals. These are real people looking back, wishing they'd given themselves permission sooner. So here's the question I'd ask you to sit with. If you're 65 today, you got maybe 20 Christmases left, maybe 15 summers where you can really do things. How do you want to spend them? Watching your portfolio grow or watching your grandkids on that trip you've been postponing? Now, I'm not telling you to be reckless. That's not what this is about at all. The goal isn't to die broke. It's to die with your money well spent on things that actually mattered to you. And here's the good news. Current market conditions may offer some favorable factors to consider. After 2022's bear market, the S&P 500 returned roughly 24% in 2023 and another 23% in 2024 and another 16% in 2025. Of course, past performance doesn't guarantee future results, and markets can certainly decline as well as rise, but many portfolios are at or near all-time highs. Meanwhile, safe assets like CDs and treasuries are currently yielding around 4% as of December of 2025. That's still elevated compared to much of the last decade. At today's rates, $1 million portfolio in CDs or treasuries might generate around $40,000 annually. Though rates fluctuate, of course, and this level of income is not guaranteed, that changes the math considerably. For many retirees with substantial savings, the question may not be, can I afford to spend? The real question is, what's actually stopping me? Here's what I've learned. Once someone finally gives themselves permission to spend, a new problem emerges. They don't know how. After decades optimizing for accumulation, they've never built the muscle for intentional spending. So what does spending on what matters even look like? How do you budget for joy? How do you know when you've crossed from prudent to reckless? What's the real work of retirement planning? Not just making the money last, but making the money matter. It requires a different kind of plan, one that starts with your values, not with your portfolio. If you're sitting on $1 million, $3 million, or even $5 million or more, and you recognize yourself in what I've described, the fear, the hesitation, the feeling that you should be enjoying this more, then it might be worth having a conversation, a straightforward conversation about your situation. We can help you understand what various scenarios might look like based on your circumstances. You can request a consultation at covenantwealthadvisors.com and help you figure out what you actually want, because retirement isn't a finish line, it's the starting line for the life you've been working toward. Don't spend it watching from the sidelines. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.